we're talking about conic sections in this unit. There are 4 types of conic sections we're going to talk about in length. Now, it's called a conic section because picture a cone, and I've got these pictures for you on the screen in a second. But picture a cone, like the geometric shape a cone. If you took a plane, like a piece of paper, and you sliced through the cone, there are different shapes you can make. And by doing that, you get conic sections. Okay, so you talked a bit about these in Algebra 2. So here are the 4 we're going to talk about. If you have a cone and you slice it straight through, you get a circle, which is what we're talking about today. If you slice through like an angle, then you get an oval shape, which we call an ellipse. If you slice through like the bottom part of the cone, the weird angle, you get a parabola. And if you slice through 2 cones, you get 2 parabolas, which we call a hyperbola. So So these are the 4 types of conic sections we're going to talk about. Graphing them, writing equations, etc.
Is there anything that we can relate like this is related to?
If we're building a house,
What people use
houses,
not being made one actually kind of
houses.
this looks kind of like far.
Not really. You can use them for. I got some real life examples we could do later, but you can see a little bit about it. No.
She's like
Now, you could also cut through the cone at different places. Different things could happen. We're not going to talk about these, but vocabulary's sake, and for those of you that know that something else could happen. If you cut through the 2 cones at the very middle, that just is a point. Well, that's not anything exciting. It's a point. Or if you cut through the cones on the exact slant where one goes through, the other one starts, you just get a line. You don't get anything like exciting. Or if you went through the very, very center, you'll get 2 intersecting lines. Like, not anything exciting. These are called degenerate conics. Again, we're not talking about those. It's just a point and lines. You know about points and lines. We are going to talk about circles, ellipses, parabolas, and hyperbolas. We good? The circle stuff today is going to be super easy. You just got to pay attention. I know what's going on. It's pretty much using an equation. You can use an equation, it'll be good. Yes. All right, so a circle is just a set of all points that are equidistant from a given point in the plane called the center. You guys know about circles. You learned about them in geometry. You did a little more in Algebra 2. You know what a circle is. We're not shocked by this. So we have the radius, which is, again, from the center to one point on the circle. There is an equation. Again, it's on the red sheet on both sides. An equation for the circle. This is standard form of the equation. We'll talk about a generic, like a general form later this week, but standard form. You have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where hk is the center and r is the radius. It tells you all of that information on the red formula sheet. It gives you the formula and that hk is the center and that r is the radius.
somewhere this is where you use your positive. If it's a negative number, it's a positive in the equation.
Right. Yes, you have to watch your signs when you're using it, but there's a negative in the original equation. It's on both sides. Circles on pre-calc and on Algebra 2 side of the red sheet. Like if your point, like part of your coordinate h is negative, let's say this was -2, and that'll become positive in the parentheses. Questions about the actual equation? Because all we're doing today is doing problems where we have to put information to write this equation. That's all we're doing. In varying degree of difficulty. We're good? Okay. First example, really easy. Write the standard form of the equation, then graph the equation. Should be no problem on the first one. It tells us the center is at 0, 0. So that is HK. We already know those. And it tells us the radius is 9. So that's R. And that's all I need to use in my equation, h, k, and r. X and y stay x and y. So all you need is h, k, and r, and you're done. We have h, k, and r, so we're done. We're just going to write the equation out. So we have x minus h squared, so it's x minus 0, plus y minus k squared. K is also 0. And that equals r squared, so it equals 9 squared. So this just simplifies out to be x squared plus y squared equals 81. If you try to solve this and graph it in your calculator, you won't get a circle. You'll get a semicircle. So be careful. If you solved it for y, because you want to do y equals for your calculator, you take a square root, right? Because there's a square. When you take a square root, there's a positive version and a negative version. You'll forget. You'll put the positive version in and get the semicircle. Because you forgot to do the negative version, it's two separate equations to do the whole entire circle in your calculator. Alright, so we're going to graph this. This is the easiest way to graph a circle. Ready? Graph the center. 0, 0. The radius is 9. So the easiest way to do that is just to graph the 9 in the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. Because the radius is 9. Be careful, the radius is just 9. Even though in the equation it says 81, the radius is still 9. And then you're going to make a circle instead of a square, and I'm going to cheat because I'm going to use the circle tool. If you have a compass, you can make a perfect circle on your paper. Otherwise, freehand it, just don't draw a square. It's okay, as long as I know it's not a square. Alec, yours is actually pretty good.
Say it.
I intentionally made such a square. Yes, that's amazing.
Okay. Everyone understands the first question. We good? Alright, now, the second one apparently is unintentionally difficult. I thought you had encountered some vocabulary that you did not encounter in geometry, so I'm going to make an explanation real fast. It says tangent, but it does not mean trigonometry tangent.
So it doesn't touch.
Tangent means that your figure touches a line at one specific point. That's all it means. So tangent to a circle means that there is a line that exists, and it only touched your circle at one point. And they meet pretty much like for the circle. The radius of the circle and the tangent line will meet perpendicular. Okay? Yes, it's just at one point. So the radius and the tangent line meet and they're perpendicular. Okay? That's what tangent means. That was not clear earlier today. Thought you knew that. So, yes. So on the second example, it tells us the center, so we know HK.
We need to write it down.
We're going to get there. And then it says the circle is tangent to the line x equals 3, so I don't have the radius. So I can't write the equation yet. I got to figure out the radius. You could do it in your head. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the graph so you can see it visually about how I'm getting the radius, okay? The line x equals 3, is that a horizontal or vertical line?
Vertical.
Vertical. X equals 3 is a vertical line. So at x equals 3, that's right here. Yes? Okay. We know the center is at negative 1, 4. So negative 1, 4 is right here. That's the center of my circle. And we just said that we have a tangent line that the radius and the tangent line have to meet and be perpendicular. Right? So I'm going to draw out from the center a line to there. Because they're perpendicular. Right? Then I can count and figure out what R is. So what is R going to be? Does that make sense to her? Yes? Alright, so then I have to write the equation and draw my circle. So I'm going to write the equation first and I'll go back and finish my circle. So you have to fill in the equation. We have HK, we figured out what R is. So I can go back and fill it all in. So I have X minus negative 1 squared, so that becomes a plus sign, plus Y minus 4 squared, and that equals 4 squared, which is 16. So far, so good. There's your equation, and I'm just going to go back and finish my circle. So I know the radius is 4 now, so from the center I can go back and put my other points in. Does that make sense? Any clarifying I can do? So in order to write the equation, you need the center and the radius. If you don't have those, you got to find them. Okay, so you do the next two examples. All right, the next two is a graph. We're still trying to write the equation. Sort of. Still looking for the center and the radius. They're just going to give you different information. So writing the equation of the circle that satisfies each set of conditions. So, for example, the circle passes through the origin. What does that mean? And has its center at negative 4, 3. So I know the center, I know HK, but what am I missing? The radius. Now, if you graph this, you don't get a pretty horizontal or vertical line. It's going to be at a slope, so you can't just count. So how can we figure out what the radius is? You can either make a triangle. That would work. We talked about trigonometry a lot, so you can make a triangle. Essentially, that triangle, you're just using the distance formula. You can, but you're going to get a slope. So you're going to have to do something with Pythagorean theorem. So either you can use the Pythagorean theorem if you draw it out, or you can use the distance formula. I'm going to use the distance formula. It all works out the same thing, though. We're going to use the distance formula. I've got 2 points. So I can call this x1, x2, y2, and this one x1, y1. You have the distance formula on your sheet, right? So the distance between the points is the square root of x2. I'm just doing the distance formula. Is that pluses? No. This is one way of doing it. If you want to do it with a picture and the Pythagorean theorem, you can. You would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it would be this point in the origin, right? So you'd have to do this triangle. This would be 4, and this would be 3. You can try to find that. Both ways work. Okay? Here you get the square root of 16 plus 9. Over here you would have x squared equals 4 squared plus 3 squared, which is also 16 plus 9. So you get the square root of 25. Over here you get x squared equals 25. You would take the square root. They give you the same thing. So R is 5, regardless. Right? We have not written the equation yet. We had to find R to do so. So you don't have to do both of these things. You would do one or the other. Okay? All right, so to write the equation, we know H, we know K, and we know R now. So you can write it out. So we have X minus negative 4, so that's plus 4. Y minus 3 equals 25.
You ever leave it where it's top where you ever leave that?
questions on where any of that came from. Where I got the equation from, how I got r equals 5, anything. Okay, then one more and I'll be done. The end points of a diameter are 2, 3, and negative 6, negative 5. So the diameter is the whole entire length of the circle, right? Now, I need to know the center and the radius in order to do anything with this equation. So if I know the two end points of the diameter, then what am I going to do to find the center? Right, so to find the center, I'm going to take an average, which is technically the midpoint formula, but it's not, it's just an average. So the center is going to be at 2 plus negative 6 over 2, and 3 plus negative 5 over 2. Right, just taking the average. So 2 plus negative 6 is negative 4, and negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2, divided by 2 is negative 1. So that's the middle. Right, that's the middle of those two endpoints, so that's your center of your circle. So not the center, so what am I missing? The radius? So the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to one of the points on the circle. So I have 2 to choose from. I'm going to use the positive one because that's nice, right? So in this case, if I want to use the distance formula, I would. You should add them. So I've got the square root of, I'm going to use the center as my second one. Doesn't really matter though. Just so everyone knows what I'm doing. So I've got negative 2 minus 2 squared plus negative 1 minus 3 squared. So that's negative 4 squared plus negative 4 squared, which is 16 plus 16, which is the square root of 32. Why is that okay? That's our radius, right? In the equation, we square it, so I don't need to simplify or anything crazy. I'm just going to square it later anyway, so don't worry about it. So I have HK, I have the radius, so I can write the equation. So we get x plus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 32. Equals r squared. Questions about circles that you have right now? All right. Then learning target 1 homework is on that learning target sheet. It is due tomorrow.